You are listening to the Sportcat Show.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. You have the one, the only lethargic Sportcat today. Hello to everybody in Australia. Total brain cramp there. Oh, Mountain Dews are not kicking in. Hello to everyone on Radio X and Dare Talk Radio in Australia, as well as our loyal listeners on Yerg's Radio. I encourage everybody to come over here to the YouTube and find us. And don't forget to hit that thumbs up, notification bell, and subscription, all that stuff. And I'm told I need some of my chat members to try and find it. There's now a hyper chat button or a hyper something button. It's to the right or something. I don't know. I can't see it. So I guess if I went my own chat, I could, but that would require work. But we have a great chat. We have Denise. Denise is here with us. Good morning. How are you? Okay. I'll make sure it wasn't something saying you weren't live. Hello, Chris. And hello to all the Nashville lawyers. Yeah. I don't like Nashville. I don't like lawyers in general. So hope everybody's having a great day. Some days you don't sleep enough and you feel tired and wore out. And in other days, when you do sleep enough, you feel tired and wore out. I can't find a happy medium, and it's annoying this week. But hopefully, starting Monday, I will be back in my home in Atlanta. So hopefully that'll happen. We'll see. Things look like that it should right now. So I don't foresee anything. I need to find some wood to knock on, but I don't foresee anything that would make me have to stay. So Ginger's fine. She can return. Mom and my cousin should be fine. So I should be able to leave them. And I guess that would be it. I can go home. First time in 8 months? It's been a bit. Well, I was home for a week and a half. And then I had to come back here, but which is okay. But I'm glad to be headed home. So we'll see. So good morning, everyone in Australia. Let's make the screen bigger so we can see it. Let's see. Oh, Chicago. You are already at lunchtime. Good afternoon, Chris. Hope you're having a great lunch. Hello to everyone in Denver and California, Alaska, Honolulu. Wake up time, 7:09 a.m. Get up, go to work, earn a living. It's overnight in Perth. They're listening to me while they're working on the job. If I have any firefighters, paramedics, or police officers in Australia that are on the night shift, drop in the chat or shoot me a message. I'd love to know, since, I'm kind of retired public safety. Maybe more like retarded public safety, but that's, wait a minute, I can't say that. I'll get dinged. I need to find a button to censor myself. So I need a button. I need to find a button. Yeah, there's a ding for the day. How about that? All right, so it's 1:10 a.m. in Perth, Usula 1:55, Darwin 2:40, Sydney. It's almost time to get up and go to work. 3:10, 3:40 in Lord Howe. And it's already 2 in the afternoon in Bermuda. So if you're on a cruise ship over there listening to me, get out and get in the pool. Go have some fun. Do something I wouldn't do. And I just like looking at this map. It shows us it's starting to get dark over in Europe. Is it dark now? Let's see. Yeah, it's starting to get dark over in Asia, in the Middle East, and in Africa. See the sun way down there shining on Venezuela. We're going to be talking about them here in a bit. So, all right, let's see what kind of mayhem and trouble we can get into. See if I can get dinged today again. So, let me take this. I'm going to leave it. I just don't like the color. All right. I don't like the color of this new Chrome either. I mean, I do, but it's different. So I don't do different. No, I hit the wrong damn button over there. I need a producer, somebody to keep me on my toes. I thought Brenda was going to come over and help me, but apparently not. So, all right. Well, let's get kicked off and going. Let me turn this off. I think I got an echo. I don't like echoes. So, all right. That is turned off. So now I can't hear myself. Good morning, everybody. It is September 3rd in the United States, 1:12 Eastern. And today is September 3rd. I just said that, didn't I? Man. And Chris says, Lord Howe is a great name for a place. Yeah, I'd like that on my zip code. Our Alice Springs is a nice one as well. So, all right. So it is September 3rd. I said this third time, but I'm just reminding everybody because with this week in the U.S., we have a partial week because we were off on Monday. I took the day off. I thought yesterday was Monday. I thought today is Tuesday, and I'm not ready for my show tonight. I've got guests. I've got everything. I just haven't set the show up, and so now I'm in panic mode, and I still have to record my radio show for tomorrow on a Thin on Rock station. So I'm a day behind. All right. So today in history, 301, San Marino, one of the smallest nations in the world and the world's oldest republic still in existence, is founded by St. Marinus. Where is St. Marino? Or San Marino? Where is that? All right. So we're going to ooh shiny here for a minute. I'm going to do a lot of ooh shiny today since I'm lethargic. Where is it on a map? Show me. Well, no, show me on a map, dum-dum. It's in Europe. Well, that's good to know. And, so it's off the coast of Italy. Okay, cool. Well, no, it's not even a coastal. It's a city within Italy. I guess it's a country within Italy. Wow, okay. Didn't know that. Did not know it. It's a landlocked country in southern Europe, completely surrounded by Italy. So, well, they can't escape. So, if they want to escape. All right, sorry, ooh shiny for a minute. Y'all have to work with me. I'm old and slow today. 1650, Oliver Cromwell's English new model Amy defeats a Scottish force in a surprise attack, the Battle of Dunbar. All right. 1783, the Treaty of Paris is signed in Paris, ending the American Revolutionary War between Great Britain and the United States of America. We weren't called America back then. Let me see if I can kill this noise for you all. I think I can. I think that'll kill that noise because apparently in my Bigfoot group, they're going to have a full ongoing conversation. Okay. So let's see. We talked about the Treaty of Paris. 1791, the new French Constitution replaced the old French Constitution, declaring France a constitutional monarchy. It's passed by a National Assembly during the French Revolution. 1900, with a proclamation by General Lord Roberts, Britain annexes the Boer Republic of South Africa. 1939, World War II, Britain declares war on Germany after the invasion of Poland. France follows 6 hours later, quickly joined by Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and Canada. 1944, Holocaust diarist Anne Frank is sent to Auschwitz concentration camp. 1967, Sweden begins driving on the right side of the road in Dagen. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I don't know. Maybe that's who took the picture. So they started driving. Why did they switch? Why? In 1988, an estimated 50,000 Kurdish civilians and soldiers are killed by Iraq. This date, many using chemical weapons in the aftermath of the Iran-Iraq war. We're still fighting over that. I need to stop. 1951, the TV soap opera Search for Tomorrow debuts on CBS. Is that one still around? Isn't The Young and the Restless only one still around? I don't follow it anymore. I won't say anymore because there's a period in time in high school when no, it wasn't high school when we had our first child and we were up all night and we would wake up late in the afternoon. It was the only thing, because we didn't have cable TV way back then. That's Tiffany, you're that old. And we would have it on the background. And I remember The Young and the Restless, more the music than anything. So that's for the fact that they all hated each other, wanted to kill each other or have sex with each other. It was the weirdest show. 1912, Arnold Schoenberg's Funf Orkenstucker, Orkenstuck, 5 pieces of orchestra, premieres in London at a promenade concert. I'm just picturing someone listening to me on one of the European radio stations and going, what in the absolute fuck did that redneck just say? 1950, Gillespie Nino Farnia wins the inaugural Formula One Drivers World Championship by winning the Italian Grand Prix at Monza in Alfa Romeo, finishing 3 points behind of Juan Manuel Fangio. And Denise says the General Hospital is still on. Okay, I don't know that. Seems I would have watched that one, because I was I was in EMS training, but I don't remember it. I don't know. Maybe we did. We didn't talk about it, I guess. Maybe that's better. Maybe it's a better way of saying it. Let's see here. And I did it again. Stop pushing that button, dummy. All right, 1189. Richard the Lionheart is crowned king. Now, I am actually king. I am actually kin to him. And Chris was saying, I was guessing you would skip saying Funf Arkansas. I applaud the effort. Yeah, no, it was probably bad. It was probably very bad. I'm probably starting wars in some country right about now. 1189, Richard the Lionheart is crowned king. I'm actually kin to him, but he was only a king for a while because I think they killed him, so I'm not sure. Richard the Lionheart is crowned King of England at Westminster Abbey in London, the third son of Henry II and Eleanor of Aquitaine. Richard rose to power after the deaths of his older brothers in rebellion against his father with the assistance of Philip II of France. He ruled for 10 years till he was fatally wounded with a crossbow while besieging a French town in 1199. And my question is, why did the kings and all the emperors go to war? Shouldn't they be sitting in an office somewhere far, far away? 1770, Captain James Cook becomes first European to make contact with remote Azmat tribe. Captain James Cook and his crew landed on the shores of New Guinea, the territory of the remote Azmat tribe, who would later be connected to the disappearance of Michael Rockefeller in the 60s. We talked about the Treaty of Paris is signed, established the United States as a sovereign nation, and set the borders of the new country. 1838, Frederick Douglass, he escaped slavery. He disguised as a free black sailor. Frederick Douglass escaped from rural Maryland and made his way from Baltimore to New York City. He would write about his experiences as an enslaved person in his narrative of The Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave, which was published in 1845 and became a seminal work in the abolitionist movement. Probably screwed that one all up too, Chris. It's funny, he escaped from rural Maryland. That's not even a southern. Now he's blaming the South for everything. Maryland isn't in the South. All right, 2012, Griselda Blanco, the queen of cocaine, dies. Well, interesting. She dies in Medellin, Colombia, known as La Madrina. Blanco was a prolific Colombian drug lord in the 80s. She is believed to have killed anywhere between 2,000 and 2,000 people to protect her drug empire. After serving time in prison, she was sent back to Colombia in 2004. There, unidentified assailants would assassinate her outside a butcher shop. Well, wonder if anybody in our country, maybe a former Secretary of State, female or First Lady, maybe she is on that too. Hold on, I gotta find my button because I'm doing it again. That's 2 for the day. I need a new bell. I need one that just goes ding. So I don't know.
She's an idiot.
Yes, she was. So in 2013, Ariel Castro commits suicide. Ariel Castro dies of suicide at the age of 53 while in a correction center in Ohio. 4 months later, he was arrested. 4 months earlier, he was arrested. It's not Monday, is it? For kidnapping and raping Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, Gina De Jesus between 2002 and 2004. Castro held women at his Cleveland home for over a decade until Berry escaped in 2013. There you go. So there's that. Let's see what else we got here today in history. No, it's what is today. What is today? Well, there's lots of what is today. Today is Skyscraper Day. As a kid, I always thought I was going to move to New York City and live in one of the big, beautiful high-rises, but I chose not to. Foundation Day in San Marino. Global Talent Acquisition Day. Well, anybody who wants to come do my job, I'll hire you, but the pay sucks. Merchant Navy Day. Well, we need them. Many people don't realize we have a entire merchant marine, I wouldn't call it a force, but working force. How about that? They have been enlisted to help with us in several wars and all kinds of things. National Welsh Rarebit Day. Yes, it is. Bowling League Day. Chris, have you ever been to bowling league? I have never been to bowling league. Yamashita Surrender Day. Yeah, so, all right. Let's move on and see if there's anything else new and exciting over here. Well, no, not. And I have never had rarebit, Welsh rarebit. I always thought it was rabbit. What the hell is it? Was it not rabbit? I'm confused. Tasty and satisfying snack. What is? It's a cheesy toast. Was originally called rabbit in a tongue-in-cheek way in the Welsh language because there's no rabbit in the meal. Well, damn, I am this year's old today when I know that there is no Welsh rabbit. It's similar to mock turtle soup having no turtle in it. Okay. The dish is made with toast and hot cheese poured over it. Over time, the dish became known as Welsh rarebit, a nod to the inside joke. Well, I don't know. Am I the only one? Chris, did you know there was no rabbit in Welsh rarebit? He said he was in the league many years ago. He's accidentally bowled a perfect game and have a 300 ring. Now, Chris, was it the most beautiful, perfect game anyone has ever seen or can imagine? That it was a beautiful day. People were overlooking you as you did it. Or was it a Drunken Simpsons moment? Mine would be the Drunken Simpsons moments back in the day. Don't drink anymore, though, so not me. All right, so notable birthdays. Prudence Crandall, the founder of the Canterbury Female Boarding School. Louis Sullivan, an architect. He became the father of the skyscrapers, probably why we have Skyscraper Day. Dorothy Maynor, founder of the Harlem School of Arts. Marguerite Higgins, a female journalist and war correspondent, World War II, Korean War, in Vietnam. Chris, I love it, Chris. It was a big, beautiful game bowled with a big, beautiful ball. Oh, Chris, I love it.
No, for your information, I have full-size balls.
There you go, Chris, just for you. Glenn Bell, the founder of Taco Bell. Hey, well, why do we not have Bell Day or Taco Bell Day? And okay, I'm this year's old today. See, this show educates me because apparently my 6th grade GED only carried me so far in life. It carried me this far that, well, I don't know what the hell I'm doing every day. So Taco Bell, here's an extra bell for Glenn Bell. And I got to like the fella because he spells it with one N. What a beautiful man. He's a wonderful, beautiful man. Unfortunately, he passed in 2010, probably from too many tacos. His bell is the sensor sound. Now, I think I need more like a ding. Like, you know, you go to the hotel and you hit the button and the guy behind the counter looks at you like, why the hell are you hitting the button? That one. Mort Walker, he's a cartoonist who created Beetle Bailey in High and Lois. I loved Beetle Bailey. I think it's still being written. I also wanted to go back to Marguerite Higgins. There was a book called, I think it's Letters from War or Letters to Home. And I think they did them for other wars, but we did the one for the Korean and Vietnam War. It was from the soldiers. It was letters from the soldiers that were sent home. And a great book if you can still find it published anywhere. I'm sure mine is probably long lost, but that and Philip Caputo's A Rumor of War. Those two were really great books about that era. And of course, I do love Beetle Bailey. Sergeant Rock. Does anybody remember Sergeant Rock? I think he was a DC comic. Albert DeSalvo, serial killer known as the Boston Strangler, was born today. Charlie Sheen, platoon actor known for his role on Charlie on 2.5 Men. Yes, and he was also the pitcher in is it Major League? Don Brewer, he's a drummer, founding member of the rock band Grand Funk Railroad. Oh, and speaking of drummers and rock bands, tonight on my Sportcat show, I'm so used to saying paranormal guys, the Sportcat show, we have two awesome musicians. The second one, he is, I'll tell you, I looked at him and I thought, man, this guy is ZZ Top. And the band he's in, man, I'm drawing a blank. I'll look up his name and tell you so you can research it if you're interested before the show. Mortal Man. I listened to that last night and man. And in fact, I immediately forwarded it to my program director and said, hey, we got to play this on the Thin Line Rock station. And I should have sent it over to Radio X because they would love it too. Yeah, Denise, you will love the guy. He doesn't want to go on camera, but he will do audio. Now, the first guy will come on camera, and they both, of course, have some paranormal tales, and they're both popular lead singers in. One is a Southern rock band. The other one I would describe as a blues folks. It's Southern rock. It's Southern rock. And he's got that grovelly voice that's just amazing. So 1777, the U.S. flag is flown in battle for the first time during the Battle of Cooch Bridge. We weren't battling over Coochie. The New York Sun becomes the first daily newspaper to be published. Interesting, because I just read an article that the Atlanta Journal is actually discontinuing print. So they will be going to all digital and wanting to charge you for it. So won't get me on there. 1838, Frederick Douglass escapes from slavery. 1964, President Johnson signs the Wilderness Act into law, providing protection to many wildlife areas throughout the country and to Bigfoot. So ZZ Top, they were awesome. Yes. Chris says, I don't have any proof of this. It's just a theory, but I tend to believe people who insist on two N's at the end of your name could have racist tendencies. You know, would it be racist maybe they're just discriminating against the extra N? I don't know. You can't discriminate against the N's. It's bad. I'll probably be dinged for that, thinking I'm saying something else. Jesus Christ, YouTube. I need a disclaimer. I'm going to see if I can get Radio X to read up a disclaimer for me so it sounds really cool, because my voice is, well, it won't sound that great. So, all right, Andrew McNeil's Almanac for today, September 3rd, 2025. And we know that today, or we are learning today, I'm this year's old when I learned facts today. Today is the 246th day of 2025, the 76th day of summer. Yes, it's still hot in the South. Today's history: in 1783, the signing of the Treaty of Paris officially ended the Revolutionary War. 1838, abolitionist leader, I'm not having a stroke, I just can't talk, Frederick Douglass escaped slavery in Baltimore. Now, and I gotta wonder if Jurgs ever listens to this and goes, why the hell do I give this guy time to talk? 1939, France, the United Kingdom, New Zealand, Australia declared war on Germany in response to the invasion of Poland. 2004, a 3-day hostage situation at a school in Beslan, Russia, ended with a gun battle that killed more than 300 people, including 186 children. Today, we just talked about Louis Sullivan, the architect. It's his birthday. Ferdinand Porsche, an automotive engineer. Kitty Carlisle, an actress. Alan Ladd, Mort Walker. Eileen Brennan. journalist, author, and then Charlie Sheen, which we talked about. Raheem Morris, a football player and coach. Janine French, is it Janine or Jean? Jenny Finch, softball player. And then Sean White, an American snowboarder. Ferdinand Porsche, founder of the automobile company of the same name, designed the first hybrid gasoline-electric engine, known as the Lohner Porsche Mixed Hybrid. The car went into production in 1900. They still make the Boxer engine. Wonder if they still make that. Today is sports. 1950, Giuseppe Nino Ferrano. The Italian, I just like sounding funny knowing names. Grand Prix becomes the first Formula One's world's driver champion. Today's quote: we have, as human beings, a storytelling problem. We're a bit too quick to come up with explanation for things we really don't have an explanation for. That is a quote from Malcolm Gladwell. Blink, the power of thinking without thinking. Well, I don't think a lot, so there you go. Today's number, 4,435. The U.S. service members killed in battle during the Revolutionary War, according to the Department of Veterans Affairs. Today's moon, it's between a first quarter moon and a full moon. I swore last night when I went outside that it was a full moon. It looked nice and bright up there. So, and Chris says, I saw ZZ Tops with Brooks and Dunn, and they were one of the loudest shows I've ever heard. My ears were ringing for days afterwards. I had a similar experience with 38 Special. I saw them, and Huey Lewis opened for them here in Knoxville, and I saw them, and man, they were loud. Great Southern rock band, but they were loud. All right, so this comes to, this is funny, because I wanted to find something that maybe had a little local vibe to it. So I went to trying to find a Huntsville radio station, because usually their talk radio stations can give you some pretty good information about local vibe. So I tried to find a Huntsville radio station that had an article about Space Force being moved. I found one. Do they even know it's coming? I mean, that was crazy. So I'm like, what? So everybody else I can find it, but I don't know. Trump says this, and so this comes, let me give credit here so I don't get dinged. I'm reading a story from FM Talk 106.5. And the headline is, "We Love Alabama. Trump officially announces Space Command moving to the Rocket City." President Trump made it official Tuesday. U.S. Space Command is moving to its permanent headquarters in Huntsville's Redstone Arsenal. Surrounded by Alabama's congressional delegation in the Oval Office, Trump said the long-delayed decision will bring more than 30,000 jobs and billions of dollars in economic impact to the Rocket City, adding the move will also help America defend and dominate the high frontier. He also blasted the former administration for wrongfully obstructing earlier plans keeping command in Colorado. Trump claimed Colorado's all-male voting system factored into his reversal, calling it, quote, corrupt. Huntsville Mayor Tommy Battle says a 60-acre site on the Redstone Arsenal has already been identified, and local officials have been behind the scenes preparing for months. Temporary facilities could be in place as the headquarters transitions over the next 3 to 4 years. Takes that long to move them? With cost saving estimated to be more than $400 million compared to staying in Colorado Springs. The Arsenal already hosts NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center, the Missile Defense Agency, and multiple Army commands, meaning Space Command will join one of the most concentrated hubs of defense and aerospace expertise in the country. And somewhere in other countries, there's adjusting the motion of where a big thing could like fall from the sky on them. Instead of it being Colorado, it's now moved to Huntsville. Reaction has been swift. They weren't talking about it on talk radio in Alabama. Alabama leaders, including Senators Tommy Tuberville, Katie Britt, praised Trump's decision, calling it a win for national security and taxpayers. Tuberville said the move restores merit and integrity to the process after politics delayed it, while Britt said Alabama's workforce is ready to strengthen national security long into the future. Colorado's bipartisan delegation blasted the change, warning it will only waste billions, weaken readiness, and disrupt a defense workforce that has built up around Colorado Springs. But Colorado Republican Patty Chair broke ranks, backing Huntsville as the rightful home after calling it's the rightful home, calling the previous administration a political decision. With Tuesday's announcement, what had been one of Alabama's most anticipated what-ifs, kind of like what if they'll ever get another trophy, well, it's finally what's next as the state prepares to become permanent home of America's Space Warfighting Command. Well, hopefully they can generate some football players there, too, that don't suck. I'm being mean. Yes. Like Alabama, like Bobby Dizzle sounds like an Alabama football fan. Yeah. Oh, he's talking about Tommy Battle. Tommy Battle sounds like an Alabama mayor. Like Bobby Dizzle sounds like a Bama football fan. Yes. All right. So U.S. forces stage a lethal airstrike on an alleged drug boat in the Southern Caribbean. The U.S. officials have released a video that appeared to show an airstrike by U.S. forces on a speedboat in waters near Venezuela that President Donald Trump said was carrying, quote, a lot of drugs. U.S. forces patrolling the Southern Caribbean fired on a Venezuelan boat that the U.S. officials say was linked to drug trafficking. President Trump posted a video to social media of an apparent airstrike on a moving speedboat that he said was carrying drug shipments. We just over the last few minutes literally shot out a boat, a drug-carrying boat, lots of drugs in that boat, Trump told reporters at the White House before hinting that further strikes may be coming, and there's more where that came from. Secretary of State Marco Rubio referred to the attack as, quote, lethal in a tweet on the attack, and several people are seen in the 3-engine speedboat vessel prior to the strike, which appears to disabled and sets the boat on fire. Disabled is a little underrated. Neither Trump, Rubio, or the Pentagon offered further evidence of the boat's alleged smuggling or specifics on the attack, including information on what assets may have been involved or any post-attack word on casualties, survivors, or recovered drugs. Pentagon officials confirmed the attack without offering any details. As the president announced today, we can confirm the U.S. military conducted a precision strike against a drug vessel operated by a designated narco-terrorist organization. More information will be available at a later time, according to an email from the Pentagon. And it conducted a kinetic strike against a positively identified Tren de Aragua narco-terrorist in Southcom. I could show you the video, but it would probably just result in me getting another ding, so we're just going to needlessly avoid that. Chris says, did they need to put an unclassified on the pic of a fireball? Thanks, government, for having so much faith to share that. Hey, if you look at the eGuys files they dumped yesterday, there was whole pages that were all blacked out. So maybe they do need to, Chris. I don't know. The attack marks a peak in recent U.S. escalations in the Southern Caribbean, where a small fleet, that's understatement, of U.S. Navy ships has taken up position in the last month off the coast of Venezuela. Both Trump and former President Biden refused to recognize Venezuela as President Marco Polo, Nicolas Maduro as the nation's legitimate ruler. Maduro has been in power in the country since 2013. His regime has long been linked to violence, fraud, and narco trafficking. Hey, similar to previous administrations. Trump drastically increased U.S. agitation of Maduro this year when he named him the head of the Tren de Aragua drug cartel. The federal government, that's not spelled, the federal governmentor, the federal governmentor. What the hell is a governmentor? The federal governmentor. What? That's not spelled right. How did that get past spell check? My fourth grade education got me further than that. Federal governmentor designating the group as a terrorist organization. Hey, maybe it's how I'm supposed to read it to keep out of getting in trouble with YouTube. The federal governmentor. Noticeably in his post, Trump referred to the crew of the boat as 11 terrorists killed in the action. The U.S. has recently surged significant naval assets towards Venezuela. The guided missile cruiser USS Lake Erie is en route to the southern Caribbean near Venezuela, a Navy official confirmed to Task and Purpose on Saturday. The USS Lake Erie, a Ticonderoga, that one, class guide, I should probably know how to pronounce our own warships, class guided missile cruiser was spotted passing through the Panama Canal by reporters from Agence France Presse on Friday night, heading to the Caribbean. It's set to join 3 missile destroyers and 2 Iwo Jima amphibious ready groups already in the waters near Venezuela. Those ships and a Marine Expeditionary Unit on board the ARG were deployed as part of an anti-drug trafficking operation. P-8 surveillance planes are also operating in the Caribbean, and all the U.S. has sent ships with thousands of sailors and 2,200 Marines to waters near Venezuela in recent weeks. Denise says it's like McDamn it. I still love that word, Denise. Chris says, imagine how quickly you would be fired if you went to your boss with an explanation of why you did your job the way you did, and you blacked out most of it, and then said the boss had no right to see it. He said, sounds like something I would do. I did get in trouble one time. We used to, 24-hour shifts, you answer calls all 24 hours. And on an ambulance, you would sometimes answer 28 plus calls in a 24-hour shift. It sucked. And one night we were getting unmercifully hammered by dispatch. And I noticed 2 times that we passed fire stations, doors closed, lights off, units in there with their crew snuggled in nice and sleepy. And so I called dispatch when we finally got back to the station. I said, why am I passing stations that their units are in service? I'm assuming they're in the service, and the lights are all off and they're asleep. To which the dispatcher replied to me, well, you were already up. What? What? So I got in trouble because I went over to the standard operating procedures and guidelines, took them out of the notebook, and faxed them to the dispatch center. Yeah, Chief woke up for that one. Donald Trump gathering incredible assets for offense in Venezuela, according to Pete Hegseth. Unmercifully hammered would be a great name for a rock band, specifically if they were first responders. Unmerciful. Would it be a Southern rock band? Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said that President Donald Trump is gathering incredible assets for offensive action targeting drug cartels in Venezuela. His comments to Fox News on Wednesday came after Trump announced Tuesday that the United States forces had struck a drug-carrying vessel in the southern Caribbean after it departed from Venezuela. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said on X that the ship was run by a designated narco-terrorist organization and called the action a lethal strike. Later on Tuesday, in a Truth Social post, Trump said the vessel was operated by Tren de Aragua gang, and said the president said 11 were killed in the operation. President Trump is willing to go on offense in ways that others have not, Hegseth said, and to send that clear signal to Tren de Aragua, Cartel du Sol, and others emanating from Venezuela, we are not going to allow this kind of activity. We've got incredible assets, and they are gathering in the region, the SecDef said. Trump said Tuesday that the move was part of a wider effort by the U.S. to tackle drug trafficking, with Hegseth commenting, Further action will take place by the American military despite warnings that Venezuela could retaliate with its own military force. Did anybody see the video they posted of their special forces female operator? I swear to God that shoulder-mounted hand cannon that she was carrying looked like something a cosplayer would put together. It was in broken English. They were threatening us. Yeah, bring it. Hexas comments suggesting further action will be taken by the American military despite warnings that they would retaliate. The latest developments highlight the ongoing lack of diplomatic relations between the U.S. and Venezuela, with Trump administration seeking to arrest President Nicolas Maduro over allegations he has traced to the TDA. Hexas said he watched the strike live and that officials had known exactly who had been in the boat. They were members of Tren de Aragua. The SecDef stated that targeted action was necessary, placing the blame for the flow of illicit drugs into the U.S. over the past 4 years of the Biden administration, which Hexas said had largely come from Central and Southern America. Venezuelan officials have countered the White House's messages, saying that if the idea was the target of drug trade, then U.S. personnel should be sent to the Pacific and not the Caribbean. Yeah, look over here, not here. Some experts have cast doubts on the strength and influence of the Tren de Aragua gang Trump administrators have designated as a foreign terrorist organization. Recent analysis by Insight Crime found that the gang's leadership has weakened and become more disjointed in recent years. That's because they don't have long life expectancies. Drug boat departing Venezuela attacked what we know. Well, Tuesday strike followed D.C.'s recent decision to expand its naval presence off Venezuela to counter the Latin American drug cartel. Though officials have not signaled any plans for a land incursion, Trump said that 11 people were killed in the strike. They were all TDA members. Those details have not been independently verified. Well, you probably have to send some divers and some DNA specialists. In response, Maduro ordered the deployment of troops along the coast and the border with Colombia and urged Venezuelans to join civilian militias. President Donald Trump on Tuesday posted on Truth Social, the strike occurred while the terrorists were at sea in international waters transporting illegal drugs heading to the United States. The strike resulted in 11 terrorists killed in action. No U.S. forces were harmed in the strike. Please let this serve as a notice to anybody ever thinking about bringing drugs into the United States of America. Beware. Thank you for attention to this matter. And there's lots of exclamation points in that quote. Mike LaSousa, deputy director of contingent at Insight Crime, told Newsweek in August, as far as we can tell, there's really no evidence that Maduro ever ordered any kind of invasion of the U.S. or any other country on the part of the gang. That remains untrue. Okay, well, they came. Yes, well, they saw an open door, and when crooks see an open door, they decide to peek in. And once they peek in and see that there's no one to stop them, they continue to rape, plumage, and pillage. That's what criminals do. And Carlos Soler, a senior research fellow for Latin American security at the Royal United Services Institute's think tank. That's a long title for somebody that doesn't have a real job. In strict terms, Venezuela has neither carried out such actions nor developed threats serious enough to justify American military intervention, such as the Houthi-led attacks or Tehran's nuclear program. That said, political leaders ultimately determine what constitutes sufficiently dangerous threat to warrant military action. Well, me and my GED can tell you that they weren't from around here. They were coming in with illegal substances that have killed many thousands of Americans. And, oh yeah, by the way, you're part of a terrorist organization. Yeah, seems to me dropping a well-placed boomstick right there from a drone was, well, good thing. It is unlikely the U.S. will carry out a land in Venezuela. Experts have told Newsweek that Trump was likely seeking to put on a show of force to get Maduro to take tougher actions against the cartels. Yeah. Yeah, I think we're going to bomb the shit out of them. Chris says, shoulder-mounted hand cannon is what I called breasts in grade school, so teachers had no idea what I was saying. I love that, Chris. Shoulder-mounted hand. Chris, you might get a ding for being a misogynist for that. Hold on, I got to give you a ding. You might be a misogynist for... Oh, wait a minute, wrong button for saying that. So, I got to hurry and push this button. Oh, is it Friday? Please let it be Friday. So what large-scale U.S. military action against Venezuela could look like? Well, I think it's kind of easy to determine. We got a bunch of big ships out there, so that's probably the start of it. Venezuela is at maximum preparedness and ready to respond to any possible U.S. military overture, the country's president Nicolas Maduro said on Monday. But after U.S. President Donald Trump said the U.S. had attacked a vessel close to Venezuela on Tuesday and pointed the finger squarely at Maduro, the big question remains. Would the U.S. actually carry a large-scale attack on the Latin American country or even invade? Well, the answer is likely no. Experts are skeptical that an ongoing U.S. military buildup in the southern Caribbean and nearby waters is the first steps to invasion, but deployment of, among other 3 destroyers, at least 1 submarine, and an amphibious ready group filled with pissed-off Marines is a further deterioration in the poor relationship between Washington and the Caracas, and appears to have spooked Maduro. Republican arms. U.S. officials said last month that Washington was deploying 3 destroyers armed with advanced missiles and thousands of personnel off the waters of Venezuela as part of a drive to combat Latin drug cartels and gangs. Maduro on Monday said 8 vessels plus a nuclear sub armed with approximately 1,200 missiles deploying to the region were a historic threat to Latin America, calling the deployment extravagant, unjustifiable, immoral, and absolutely criminal. The U.S. warships said the nuclear-powered fast attack sub expected to arrive this week. Reuters reported on Thursday, citing an anonymous U.S. official, reached out to the Pentagon for further, but of course they're not going to comment. The Venezuelan leader said he would declare a republic in arms if the U.S. military attacked. Maduro has already vowed to place 4.5 million militiamen in defense of Venezuela. Washington and the Caracas do not have formal diplomatic relations. The ties between the U.S. and Venezuela are strained, and there's no appearance of personal rapport between U.S. President Trump and Maduro. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi said last month the U.S. authorities were doubling the reward for information leading to his arrest to $50 million, accusing the Venezuelan leader of collaborating with organized crime like the country's Tren de Aragua gang. Maduro has for years faced the U.S. drug trafficking charges and batted away U.S. accusations of narco-terrorism. Trump has long criticized Maduro and said during his first administration he would not rule out military action in the Caracas. Speaking to reporters in the White House on Tuesday, the Republican said the U.S. had struck a drug-carrying boat earlier in the day following a post-up on his Truth Social. Later, he said U.S. Southern Command forces conducted a kinetic strike on what he described as narco-terrorists in international waters working for Tren de Aragua. Trump said the strike killed 11. No U.S. people were injured. Personnel sharing footage of the operation, the president said Tren de Aragua was operating under the control of Nicolas Maduro, responsible for mass murder, drug trafficking, sex trafficking, acts of violence, terror across the United States and Western Hemisphere. Please let this serve as a notice. Anybody thinking about bringing drugs to the U.S., beware. It seems unlikely that the U.S. has not signaled any resolve to invade. No one in their right mind thinks that with 4,500 people, you can invade a country that gets mountains, jungle, multiple urban centers. Christopher Sabante, a senior research fellow for Latin America at the British think tank Chatham House, told the Guardian newspaper. This is all performance on both sides. James Story, who served as U.S. ambassadors to Venezuela from 2018 to 2023, told the newspaper that the military was likely a show of force rather than a utilization of force. Intent is always difficult to read. William Freer, a research fellow, I want to be called a fellow in national security at the UK-based Council on Geostrategy this week, told Newsweek. Good Lord, that's a lot of words to say he's a fella. The Trump administration has shown clear signs of frustration with Venezuela's role in the flow of drugs to the U.S., but has shown no signs so far of clear intent of direct military operation. Where the U.S. has recently intervened militarily in Syria, Yemen, and Iran, involvement has come after threats are attacks on U.S. forces and allies, added Carlos Soler, a senior research fellow. He's a fellow for Latin American security at the Royal United Services Institute think tank. I'm just curious. Are we going back to like the days of Dickens where we're paying a penny a word? I mean, that's a lot of words to say that he's a researcher. In strict terms, Venezuela has neither carried out such actions nor developed threats serious enough to justify American military intervention, such as the Houthi-led attacks or Tehran's nuclear program, he told Newsweek. That said, political leaders have ultimately determined what constitutes a sufficiently dangerous threat to warrant a military action. He added, more likely this is an attempt to put pressure on Maduro to take firmer action against the cartels operating in Venezuela. Well, what would an intervention look like? Imagining things typically render U.S. Marines landing in Venezuela, but even if such an operation were to occur, it would only take place at a much later stage. The U.S. would likely launch a wave of initial strikes using its long-range Tomahawk cruise missiles, taking out as many of Venezuela's defenses and assets that Caracas could use against U.S. forces. Soler said U.S. soldiers would also home in on Venezuela's logistic, ammunition storage sites, radar, telecommunication sites, and areas for launching drones. The U.S. has carried out similar operations this year in the Middle East with notable presence and effectiveness, often action against actors better equipped than Venezuela's Bolivian Air Force, Soler said. This approach minimizes U.S. material and personnel losses while severely degrading the adversary's military capability. Venezuela would struggle to hit back with its small, dubious, effective aircraft fleet, under-service frigates, and aging submarine, Soler said. The U.S. would likely come out as the victor in a second wave of torpedoes, guided munitions, and surface-to-air missiles for deployment forced boost. Venezuela's top brass pledged allegiance to Maduro, but there is likely a concern in military rank about the impact of Western sanctions, embargoes, weapons pipelines, and maintenance issues. The chatter around Venezuela has evoked for some memories of when President George H.W. Bush authorized U.S. troops to invade Panama, an operation framed as a mission to bring Panama's leader, Manuel Noriega, to justice in 1989. He was indicted in the U.S. for drug trafficking charges and accused of rigging election, but more than 20,000 soldiers descended upon Panama, further outnumbering 4,500 thought to be in the region. I've was good friends with a person that he had a secret squirrel job in that, and he told me that he was in place as a American college student. He was a fella and knew by listening to like AM radio what was going to happen well ahead of time. And when it went down, he went and got all the Americans in the college where he was at and said, come on, we got to go to a safe location for the next 24 hours. He kept them safe for 24 hours with a stashed cachet of advanced fighting force enhancers. And after about 24 hours, they came out, went to the beach, and they all pledged allegiance to the flag. So, the Trump-Maduro relation, it was a great story. I told you, he said, your entire time in the war, you were wearing flip-flops and a Hawaiian shirt. He said, well, yeah, but I did have a rifle slung over my shoulder. I'm like, everybody does down there. The Trump-Maduro relationship is transactional, Solar said. The U.S. in July said it had successfully completed a prisoner swap with Venezuela. The Wall Street Journal reported that oil giant Chevron had regained its ability to pump oil in Venezuela from Trump officials. The administration had suspended Chevron's ability to operate in Venezuela's waters in February, a major blow to the Maduro government. Maduro hoped that this cooperation would mark the beginning of continued engagement, but it's increasingly clear that Trump remains unmoved. Several Latin American nations consider the U.S. plans to bolster its presence. The Cuban Foreign Ministry said on Thursday that the U.S. president was a dangerous action, an aggressive show of force against the sovereignty and self-determination of the peoples of Latin America and the Caribbean. Cuban said that the U.S. claims associating the legitimate government of Venezuela and its president Nicolas Maduro with criminal organizations involved in illegal drug trafficking is absurd. The U.S., along with the European and Latin American countries, does not recognize Maduro as the legitimate winner. He is the guy in charge. So, catch up here. Chris says, I like to refer to myself as a smartass chatting fellow. Oh, okay. And yes, Denise, we're being cute. He was on the beaches looking at shoulder-mounted hand cannons. He was a much younger person at that point, and I'm sure there were some shoulder-mounted hand cannons that he just loved to protect. My life has led me to meet some interesting people. So, Trump warns that Putin, Kim don't conspire against the U.S. He's telling them not to. President Donald Trump publicly warned a group of conservatives that had been labeled as the emerging axis of evil, a coalition described as having been brought together under former President Joe Biden. Do not dare to conspire against the United States, President Trump wrote in a scathing rebuke as China zinged and Russia's Vladimir Putin and North Korea's Kim Jong-un gathered at a China military parade in a show of anti-American force. The big question to be answered is whether or not President Xi will mention the massive amount of support and blood that the United States of America gave to China in order to help secure its freedom from very unfriendly foreign invaders, Trump wrote on Truth Social. Many Americans died in China's quest for victory and glory. I hope that they are rightfully honored and remembered for their bravery and sacrifice. May President Xi, the wonderful people of China, have a great and lasting day of celebration. Please give my warmest regards to Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, as you conspire against the United States of America. President Donald J. Trump. Well, the Post got the attention of Russia, with the Kremlin issuing a response claiming Putin was not conspiring with China and North Korea, suggesting that Trump was being ironic with his criticism. I would like to say that no one has been conspiring. No one has been plotting anything. No conspiracies. Kremlin foreign policy aide Yuri Yashkov told Russian state television about Trump's remarks. No one even had such a thought. None of the three leaders had such a thought. I can say that everyone understands the role played in the United States, the current administration of President Trump, and President Trump personally in the current international situation. XZ, I need to learn how to pronounce his name, warned the world was facing a choice between peace or war. A massive military parade in Beijing on Wednesday, flanked by Putin and Kim in an unprecedented show of force. Trump was asked if he was concerned about the axis of Russia and China forming against the United States. He says, I am not concerned at all. We have the strongest military in the world by far. They would never use their military on us, believe me. Well, we like to go to bed at night believing that, but some days it's a little crazy. So Russia responds. We just talked about this. This comes from Newsweek. The Kremlin has denied that President Trump's assertions that Russia and China and North Korea conspired against the U.S. Trump made the accusation as the three leaders welcomed to a lavish military parade in Beijing. Newsweek contacted the White House outside of hours to seek clarification, but nobody answered. So the major show of unity and defiance was that all three of those leaders see as the world is legitimately dominated by the U.S. Trump's seemingly blunt message would appear to throw off the confrontation between two global blocs into sharp focus at a time Trump trying to engage with Putin, trying to bring peace to Ukraine. So the other article told us what their response was, said no one in their mind would be conspiring against us. And let's see, we've covered this one pretty much. Senior North Korean foreign military official Kim Chun-second said in a statement on Monday denouncing the U.S. and its two East allies, Japan and South Korea, where the U.S. persists in its anachronistic and malicious hostile acts against the DPRK, the intensified collaboration with its satellite countries. Most distrust and hostility will be piled up between the DPRK and U.S. So China and Russia, North Korea will likely try to determine exactly what he meant by the comment. Probably meant don't mess with America. Just a guess. So, hey, Wendell, welcome. So, how are you, Wendell? Good afternoon to you. We'll just kind of hit this one because it's a short story from 95.5 WSB. Good Lord, talk and talk. Federal grand jurors in the nation's capital have refused to indict two people who were charged separately with threatening to kill President Donald Trump. So I want to get this straight. They make threats online. They're okay. I show a stupid bull riding video and I get a letter from an attorney. WTF. So more backlash against Trump's law enforcement. It's extraordinarily rare for a grand jury to balk at returning an indictment, but it has happened at least 7 times in 5 cases since Trump last month ordered a surge in patrols by federal agents and troops in the D.C. area. One of the instances involved a case against a man hurling a sandwich at a federal agent. And I can see that could be reduced. But he still should get something. You don't know if you got to show respect. And the latest occurred when the grand jury refused to indict Edward Alexander Dana. He's accused of making death threats against Trump while in police custody. He also told police that he was intoxicated that night. I can give you a pass if you're just stupid. But then grand jurors also refused to hand out indictment against Natalie Rose Jones, who was arrested August 16th on charges she made death threats against Trump on social media and during interviews with Secret Service agents. The attorney disclosed the decision in a court filing on Monday. Dana's lawyer, Elizabeth Mullins, said she had never seen anything like this in over 20 years as a public defender in the Washington. She said prosecutors are responding to Trump's surge by bringing weak cases that don't belong in federal court. And grand juries are seeing right through it. It's a huge waste of resources. U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro, whom Trump appointed to be the top federal prosecutor for Washington, said a grand jury's refusal to indict somebody for threatening to kill is in essence of a politicized jury. The system here is broken on many levels, she said. Instead of the outrage that should be engendered by a specific threat to kill a president, grand jury in D.C. refuses to even let the judicial process begin. Justice should not depend on politics. So much. So we talked about how the sub-throwing incident, we actually had the photograph the day of it. So, and they refused to do anything with that case either. And that one, maybe not a federal case, but certainly certainly something should have happened. So the Epstein guy, they released about 33,000 files and videos. They're all available. I can't show them here, of course. But if you go look at these, the House Oversight Committee posted a staggering 33,295 pages of material handed over by the Justice Department after a subpoena from Chairman James Comer. The files covered his sprawling sex traffic network and his partner in crime, Janine Maxwell. It includes old court filings, police body cam footage of searches and interviews with victims, their face blurred to protect identities. Much of it has been seen before, but the sheer scale of the release is unprecedented. Pressure is now mounting on Congress to go further. Bipartisan group of lawmakers is pushing for a bill that would force the DOJ to release the full files minus victims' personal details. Speaker Mike Johnson is under fire for trying to stall the move, even as he and other members met with survivors this week. If you recall, last month he sent them home earlier, and he also doesn't want this brought up. But we're talking about Speaker Mike Johnson, so yeah. So one revelation reportedly points to Prince Andrew keeping in touch with the guy 5 years younger than he publicly, 5 years longer than he has publicly admitted. The Duke of York has long insisted he cut ties with him after visiting him in New York in December 2010. But according to messages dated in 2015 between him and former Israel Prime Minister Ehud Barak, Andrew is named as the source of information about potential business opportunities in China. Royal watchers believe the new twist could sink any fate hopes of rehabilitation. I believe Andrew thought he could make a comeback, but this is the nail in his coffin. The emails were in Mr. Barak's hacked inbox, put online by a file-sharing site, distributed denials of secrets. The Sunday Times reported verified dozens of contact details such as address and phone numbers. Andrew, 65, has always denied any wrongdoing. He did not respond to a request for comment. Ms. Maxwell has reportedly told U.S. officials that the prince did not sleep with Virginia Giuffre, according to newly released transcripts. The E-guy, convicted accomplice, made the remarks during a 2-day interview with the DOJ in Tallahassee last month. The disclosure surfaced after the transcripts and audio of the exchange were made public. Basically, if you go and you do a deep dive on this guy, I think he was a foreign operative for a country that we love to just protect in the Middle East. If you say anything bad about that country in the Middle East, you're a racist or a Zionist, or you're some kind of ist. I don't know. But I think that this guy was probably an agent and operative, and he probably had deep connections with the elites. And there's so much dirt in there, we will probably never get it all. So, but they're continuing to push. In fact, some Republicans say Trump may be covered for people linked to this guy. A Republican representative has said that President Trump might be covering for some rich and powerful friends in connection with him, adding the way to clear the president's name would be to release all the information on the investigation into the convicted sex offender and disgraced financier. If we recall, he unalived himself in New York while awaiting for trial in New York. And they go into explicit details about how they think that there's more than the 3,400 CIA blanked out documents that were released. So we'll see what happens. And everybody is going on about President Trump being sick. Well, we had a previous president that was MIA for long periods of time, and there was no questions asked, but this guy has a light weekend, and oh man, he's obviously dying. Labor Day weekend might have been quiet at the White House, but one viral video worked overtime to add fuel to unsubstantiated social media rumors about his health. The past few hours, speculation has spread suggesting that something extremely serious may have happened to President Trump. A narrator with a news reporter cadence announced in a video posted on X, it all began when the president's official schedule was suddenly suspended without any convincing explanation, sparking doubts about his true state of health. The viral video has been viewed more than 1.5 million times as of September 2nd. Video said Trump was diagnosed with a vascular condition. All official commitments have been canceled, and the White House website has stopped displaying future events. The White House in July announced Trump has a common vein condition known as chronic venous insufficiency, and it's not life-threatening. Although Trump's Labor Day weekend was low-key, he golfed and met with his grandchildren. His official schedule wasn't suspended. To the contrary, it detailed his meetings and golfing outings. Now, I do want to mention this, that my source had him in Friday going to the site of the most recent mass shooting and to visit with family and local elected officials. That was actually being put out there on the books in the media. If you know who I talk about media people all the time, Washington, D.C., they were making travel plans. So there was some changes. And this goes into talking back all the way back to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday last week, Thursday, and then Friday when we started getting into the weekend. Saturday he had no public events, but went to his National Golf Club in D.C. with his two grandchildren, and there were photographers that captured the images. And if you listen to me regularly, you know I'm friends with one of them. He had no public events scheduled on a Sunday. He did play golf with former football coach John Gruden. I say, unlike other previous people who were just talking about this on the show, I didn't go into the long backstory of what an evil person this man was. So he went golfing with a former football coach. And then he returned to his nearby home from the golf club Monday after playing golf. And he had an uneventful day. And then he spoke on Tuesday, as we saw, and he looked fine. But the video on X was originally posted by a TikTok account. Among the account's others posts are videos that used AI-generated images and basically said he was resigning because of a vein condition. So Trump met with a body double of Russian President Vladimir Putin, and that the Republicans, Democrats had joined forces to completely block his administration. So, and according to this website, his official presidential schedule wasn't suddenly suspended. We rate this claim false. So there you go. I'm going to be checking this website out more and more for information, because I've read some of their articles, and like I said, they don't go into the backstory of some of the people saying, oh, well, this guy was a bad guy because he did this. They just give you his name, which is what they should do. If you want to know the backstory, then you need to do your homework. Man, we are running way over time today, aren't we, guys? A Chicago Democrat's deranged explanation for his city's violent weekend. Now, if you recall, even other people on these same stations have said for weeks there is no criminal violence in Chicago. It's a safe city. Even over the weekend, well, let's just talk about it. Democrats around the country are test driving different responses to President Trump's quite successful crime crackdown in Washington, D.C., which he threatened to impose elsewhere, albeit under different authorities and jurisdictional constraints. Given the capital's unique status as a federal district. In D.C. itself, Mayor Bowser surprised many last week by acknowledging the dramatic reduction in crime and sounding positive about the federal-local partnership achieving those results. She enraged leftists in the process by adopting a plummeting crime is good position. It's typically very safe terrain for a politician. California Governor Gavin Newsom has been trolling Trump for weeks, so when he rolled out new anti-crime squads in his state, he had to do so with all sorts of requisite criticism of the president. But his action alone was something of a nod to the reality Trump has been highlighting, crime remains far too elevated in large swaths of the country, very much including the West Coast. It's been the Democrats of Illinois who seem to have planted their heads in the sand as aggressively as possible, shouting resistance slogans into the dust while rampant crime rages around them. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, who has achieved historic, breathtakingly low approval ratings, repeatedly refused to answer whether thousands of more local police on the beat would help reduce crime in his city, which has led the nation in murders for more than a dozen years running. He's against what he calls an unconstitutional Trump intervention and military occupation. You see, but he's also against more local law enforcement. This is an effective pro-crime and pro-criminal mayor who has earned his disastrous public opinion numbers. Governor Pritzker, meanwhile, has been whistling past the graveyard. He's peddling a conspiracy theory at Trump pushing for a possible federal intervention in Chicago is really an attempted election coup, not crime. He has infamously published a recent video of himself walking alongside the city lakefront at dawn, mockingly noted that he didn't notice any sort of crime hellscape at daybreak in a nice part of the city, while allegedly accompanied by a personal security detail. Oddly, his phone wasn't out and filming, in furtherance of his self-serving, reality-avoiding narrative of any of these places over the weekend. 52 people were shot, 7 lives lost. A little girl was shot just for sitting in her room, and mayor and the governor claimed that the president's actions was a racist attempt. It is racist. I don't know. At least 54 people have been shot, 7 fatally in shootings across Chicago so far this Labor Day weekend, police said. The weekend gun violence comes as the Trump administration prepares to potentially deploy the National Guard to the Chicago area. The violence comes after Brandon Johnson signed an executive order to fight the Trump administration's immigration enforcement plans, potential deployment of the National Guard to the city. Tragically and unacceptably, this sort of orgy of violence is hardly atypical in this city during a summer weekend. Progressives really don't like that reality being reflected in headlines, including 100% accurate ones. ABC News headline, 54 shot over the weekend in Chicago as governor rejects Trump's threats to send in guard. When confronted with the terrible statistics on CNN, an elected Chicago Democrat responded the shootings were Trump's fault, then echoed that the governor's dictator rhetoric, he didn't go quite as far as Pritzker with appalling Nazi references, but just truly unhinged and totally unresponsive to the crisis and what he said. This is factually ludicrous and insulting. Weekend bloodbaths are commonplace in Chicago. That has been a harrowing reality for many years, which including when Trump was not president in the United States. Take a look at this headline from a decade before Trump's first term. Sound familiar? This man is either wildly ignorant or he knows he's deflecting to an approved boogeyman because he doesn't have any real solutions for a city becoming a shooting gallery on a regular basis. Pathetic doesn't even begin to describe it. The Illinois congressman is trying to sound upbeat about trends. Reporter, what do you think the status of crime is in Chicago? Democrat Illinois Representative Mike Quively, crime trends are going down. It's good news. At least 52 were shot, 7 fatally over the weekend. But they're going down. But when you've lost NBC somehow, well, you've went too far. Joe Scarborough blasts Democrats for Chicago's crime-riddled Labor Day weekend. I think J.B. Pritzker should do something radical. He should pick up the phone and call the president because nothing to see here. Move isn't working. Yeah. Amazingly, even the city council packed with this sort of person and pitiful, hapless mayor still took a giant L on a budget scheme he cooked up. Basically, if you look at it, he wants the money, but he doesn't want the show of force. We'll just leave it at that. But they want the money from the government to all the money you're going to spend there. If you just give us that money, we'll take care of it. Well, like this says, that it's so predictable and so exhausting. Stop saying there's no problem when there's blood running on your street. So, and I do want to comment that this isn't the only city Here in Tennessee, Memphis, it could use some help. They need to do something. Their crime rate and statistics are way too high. So editors note too many Democrat politicians prioritize opposing Trump over stopping crime. That should be a headline. Too many Democratic politicians prioritize opposing Trump over stopping crime. Somebody offers to give you a helping hand, no matter what it is, you should help out. I mean, you should accept the help. It's not bad to accept help. All right, so we're going to just skim through this. This comes from Newsmax, but apparently a hot mic pick up President Putin and President Xi discussing organ transplants and immortality. So apparently President Xi and Russia had a conversation about getting organ transfers from younger people that they may live an extra 100 up to 150 years, according to Xi. So yeah, that's kind of weird. Doesn't that sound like something more? Didn't the Nazis do that? Didn't they start harvesting organs from young people to help make us superhumans or something? I have to go back and do some reading on that, but that sounds like an old Nazi program. So Wendell says if you give the money, they won't use it for getting rid of things. Well, you just deleted your comment, Wendell. So what the hell? You were saying you were right. If you do give them money, hundreds of mysterious unmarked containers found floating off an Alaskan shore. U.S. Coast Guard assured that the investigation will ensure the removal of any hazardous substance, as well as protection of Alaska and the maritime industry. Seen here, it's a blue container with a red X and a circle spray painted on it. There's over 100 of the unmarked containers with unknown contents found floating along the coastline of Alaska. The Coast Guard was alerted on Monday. Discoveries first reported to authorities by the Gulf of Alaska Keepers, a nonprofit organization that seeks to remove plastic debris from the Gulf of Alaska. Authorities quickly responded to the report, seizing containers ranging in size from 5 gallons to 55-gallon drums. Coast Guard recovered all the containers from the southern coastline on the Montague Islands. Contents of the container, as well as who dropped them, the area remains unclear. Investigations are underway. Officials have not yet released information regarding the potential hazards. It's a multi-agency effort investigation from NOAA, the Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, the Department of Interior, and the Chukcha Alaskan Corporation. Coast Guard assured that the investigation will ensure the removal of any hazardous substances and protect the Alaskan maritime industry. And the Coast Guard is partnering with many federal, state, and local agencies. Hey, how's that work? The federal agency partners with federal, state, and local to protect long-term vitality of Alaska's maritime industry, ensuring safe navigation and safeguard other critically important commercial resources to ensure economic security, the Coast Guard said in the statement. It's funny how when you work together, things turn out better. So there was also an article, and we've run way over in time, talking about how DC mayor has a, what is it called? When you have a process of cutting down from the forces, from you go from so many and you start stepping down. She's already got a program in place, or implemented a program talking about how they're going to step this down, but yet they're going to keep their federal resources. So Chris says, Wendell says, if you give them the money, they won't use it to remove the criminals because they would have to get rid of city officials. I agreed there. All right, so this is the FEMA daily operations briefing for Wednesday, September 3rd. Doesn't mention anything about blue barrels showing up, but one of the things they're monitoring is severe thunderstorms in Kansas, Missouri, heavy rain and flash flooding in the southwest, and the fire weather in the Pacific Northwest and Northern California. And out in the Atlantic, we have one disturbance that's pretty high chance, 70%. And in the Pacific, we have 2 named storms, Hurricane Kiko and Hurricane Lorena, which are category 2 and 1 respective. So Lorena, she is a Cat 1. She's 195 miles southwest of Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. She's moving northwest at 14 miles an hour with a maximum sustained wind at 75 miles. And the winds go out up to 10 miles from the center of the tropical storm. And additional strengthening is forecast through tonight, as weakening expected to begin by the end of the week and possibly downgraded as early as Friday. Hurricane Kiko, well, she's a Cat 2, 1,700 miles east of Kilauea, Hawaii. Maximum sustained winds of 105 hurricane force winds extend out 15 miles from the center, and additional strengthening is expected during the next day or so. She is likely to become a major hurricane later this week. In the Atlantic, we see it's located a few hundred miles west-southwest of the Cabo. Environmental conditions remain conducive for gradual development of this system during the next several days. A tropical depression is likely to form later this week or weekend. In the next 48 hours, there's a 30% chance that she'll become a named storm. And if you're still gambling, by the 7-day forecast is as high as 70%. I wonder if there's people actually bet on this. Probably are. Looking at the national forecast, well, east of the Mississippi, pretty much spotty showers all the way up from Maine down along the Atlantic coast. You're going to get a little reprieve. Florida, you never get a break. If you live along the Gulf of America, you're always seeing some spotty showers, but that cold front meeting right in the center of the country over Kansas and Missouri, well, that's going to cause for some severe weather as that low tries to extend itself with the cold weather further south. And Chris says, or Wendell says, I don't remember any hurricanes on that side of the country. There have been, we just don't discuss them on this side of the country. It's weird how once you get past west of the Mississippi, things just change. I mean, it's weird. They don't even report on DC like we do on the West Coast. It's crazy. We are obsessed here on the East with different things, but the Atlantic is one thing we keep in mind, and there's been a lot of spaghetti models coming out for this latest disturbance. So looking at excessive rainfall, well, if you're in Florida, Miami, the Keys, well, you're going to get soaked. Central Florida, not as bad. The Panhandle, you're going to get a little break. But if you're in Mississippi, Alabama, Northeast Georgia, all the way up into Boston, you can anticipate some rains getting heavier back over the further west you go past the Great Lakes. Wednesday, well, we're going to see it dying down some, and then Friday it'll become worse. Now, the fire weather, man, California, Oregon, and Washington, it is pretty extreme right now. Tomorrow will be the same. Space weather, well, they're saying on a geomagnetic storm supposed to arrive as forecast on September 1st at 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, well in advance of the 1 through September 3rd due to a potential. So in other words, we're going to have a solar storm that is going to be forecast up to a G1. Now, I'll have to do some more homework as we get closer to this, but we're moving closer to that. So we look here. Ooh, this is a new graphic they've added. G1 through G3 geomagnetic storm watch. All right, so that we see this period as the magnetic polarity, northward plus, southward minus. There's going to be a shock wave, which the storm causes the storm to intensify. So we're really going to have to investigate this one, because we're having a pretty bad solar storm starting today going to the 5th. So this says the 1st through the 3rd, but the other up here said through the 5th. No, it said through the 3rd. So it's funny. We get told about it at the last minute. So, but yeah, we're a G1 today, whatever the hell a G1 means. I guess I need to look that up. CME is G1 to, let's look that up. Let's look at term up. See what those terms actually mean so that we don't sound so ignorant. G1 and G3 are not single, but abbreviated grade. We're different. How would I have to do it differently to make AI know what it's doing? G1, G3 solar storms. There we go. Let's just put an AI mode to let AI help us since it's smarter than me. Geomagnetic storm scale. G1 minor, G2 moderate, G3 strong, affecting power systems, Voltage corrections may be required. Satellite navigation as well as HF radios may experience problems. Aurora can be seen at mid-latitudes as low as Illinois and Oregon. So Labor Day, we had a storm. It's funny, they told us about it after it hit, didn't it? So impacts, power grids can cause fluctuations, satellite operations, communications can be disrupted in the Aurora. So there you go. Now we know. So it's funny, they tell us about this after the fact. First through the third. Well, today we're in a G1, which is, they're saying it's red. Why is it G1 red and a G3? G1 power grids can cause fluctuations, while G3 may require voltage corrections and trigger false alarms. Stronger, prolonged storms, G2 and above, can cause transformer damage. All right, so for today, we are in a G1 alert level, which is apparently red. So we're in alert level G1 today for 9/3. And this looks at the time, and I'm assuming this is all Eastern Daylight Time, and it's peaking. It looks like tonight, it will peak tonight between 10 and 2 a.m. And then it will return to normal. I'm assuming that this is what time? See, usually they say Eastern Daylight, but they don't release that in here. Or am I blind? I'm pretty sure they're saying that it's this daylight. Advanced potential Eastern Daylight Time. Okay. So September 1st at 5 p.m. G1 through 3 watches all advanced for 1st through the 3rd. All right. So it appears that they're talking about this tonight will be the worst for us between, it looks like 10 and 2, maybe 3 a.m. We'll say 10 and 3 a.m. with the first hour will be the worst. So I'm going to guess it's probably going to affect the West Coast more than it'll affect us. And then we see they've increased this. I liked what they're doing here. National fire activity as of September 3rd, 69 light fires, new large fires, 6 large fires contained, uncontained large fires, 47. Year-to-date acres, 4,144,142,418. There's been 15,942 responders. And the IMT teams are pretty much advanced teams, are contracted teams. We're starting to see some information come out about the California fires. We see there's 0% contained in Cavaliers County, California. And so that one is got 5,540 acres burned and still burning. And first name storm in Windy Rock in Montana, 2,180 acres burned, still burning, 0% contained. All right, so we see the dry conditions with the fires they're fighting out there is a big issue, whereas they have 17 joint field offices, 58 major disasters, 7 emergency declarations. We're still working to repopulate and rehome 12 missions, 7 support teams, and 6 recovery offices. So we will keep track of that, especially the G1 through 3. We've already talked about the National Weather Service forecast today, with the storms being highest in the center of the country, Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, Iowa. You have the potential for some severe storms. Tomorrow, that's going to shift and it's going to continue to move eastward, but the energy is going to be down towards Southern California, Arizona, and New Mexico. And then by the time we get to Friday, Lorraine is going to be off the coast of the Baja down there. And much of the country, with the little swath of the midline section of the country, will have spotty showers. And of course, Florida, we all never count you out for rain. Tornado forecast for today, less than 2%, but the winds in Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, those could be severe. The severe storms, though, right in smack dab center of the country there is a very good chance for some hail during that storm. So have your national weather radio forecast on and be ready. I'm going to start, when I get back home, I've started secretly doing it. Don't tell Mrs. Sportcat, but I've been getting little lights. I've got another one coming to the house. Don't tell her. It's our secret. And I'm going to do a review on the lights. I've got like 5 of them because I believe everybody should carry in their pocket. They should have a fidget tool that has a sharp pointy end, and you should have some kind of flashlight within arm's reach just in case. And since everything now is powered by USB, it's probably a good idea to stock up and get some of those portable USB energy banks. They could be worth their weight in gold. So, all right. So the 7-day graphical forecast for the Atlantic, we see this disturbance is out here with, now they're saying it's an 80% chance. So if you're betting, it's a tropical wave located on the eastern tropical Atlantic, a few hundred miles southwest of Cabo Verde, and continues to produce disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Environmental conditions remain conducive for development of this system over the next several days. And they've changed it now for 80% in 7 days. So remember, this still being out here, we're still 10, 12 plus days for getting to anywhere near the mainland of the lower 48. So the spaghetti noodles are going to start forming and showing where all the predicted areas could be affected. Let's look at the president's schedule since we've made such a big deal of that. And let me enlarge this. And we're going to go to today at 9 a.m. President Trump had a in-pool camera time of 9 a.m. 11, he is greeted by President of the Republic of Poland. At 11:20, he participates in bilateral meetings with the Republic of Poland. I believe the vice president today is it Minnesota? He's over visiting the families of the mass shooting. And at 11:50, he participated in a bilateral lunch with the president. So he had a meeting and a lunch. There's nothing left on the schedule for today. And we talked about yesterday after we get off the air. Apparently he went live, but the site never updated. So I guess I needed to refresh it. That was my bad. I apologize. But he did make the announcement yesterday at 2 a.m. And then at 6 o'clock, well, president called it a night. They locked up the office, kicked them out, said, get out. All right, so let's see. There's going to go to WRC and we'll check. We got lots of updates here. All right, so let's make this bigger. Live updates. The E-Guy, well, his survivors speak as lawmakers push for releases of case files. We have several Republican leaders are holding press conference with some of the victims. That will be able to be seen online. The Fifth Circuit Court limited Trump's invocation of the Aliens Enemy Act to deport Venezuelans that his administration alleges are members of the gang Tren de Aragua. In a Truth Social post, we talked about President Trump talking about other world leaders conspiring against us. And then 13 minutes ago, Trump slams the E-Guy's hoax, H-O-A-X, hoax, as survivors gather at the Capitol. It's going to be kind of hard to call that a hoax when you got people coming out and you have police reports. So, and Democrats confront limited options to block the GOP's spreading redistricting efforts. I guess that's spreading because now it sounds like Missouri are kicking off a special session to redistrict today. And I guess it'll join the likes of Texas, where they did that as well. I think Missouri, and there were several states that were doing it or talking about doing it. And Trump says he may deploy troops to New Orleans, but the city leaders are calling it a scare tactic. Wow, that's a new city. So we've heard Chicago, we've heard LA, now we're hearing about New Orleans. All right. And then we got people that will be coming up here to meet. And according to this is from WRC, Channel 4, NBC in Washington. They're compiling their own list of people and events. So if you want to check that out, go over, check them out. An hour ago, he doubled down that it's a hoax caused by the opposition party. No matter what you do, it's going to keep going, he said. Really, I think it's enough. Well, we'll just, until people are punished for it, it's not enough. So evil flourishes in the darkness, according to attorneys for the E-Guy. Victims demand release of the files. So if the victims come forward and say they want the information out there, that's we can do it, right? I mean, you would think. And people say that the E-Guy bragged about his relationship with the president. So added that they have an 8x10 frame photo of Trump on the desk there with the two of them like they were close buddies. The White House did not respond to a request for comment. Virginia Giuffre's brother pleads with lawmakers to support the bill. She died by taking her own life earlier in the year. So, man, that's apparently something big must going to be happening, because that's the whole. If you're scrolling through the news of the day, it's all this one guy, this guy right here, the E guy. It's all him. News is all him all day. So something somewhere else is. Look over here. There's something going on, I bet. So, and there are really people going an extra mile to try and get this information out. Representative Ro Kahana, we're not partisans, we're patriots. Okay, well, riddle me this, audience. When someone called themselves a patriot under previous administrations, weren't they labeled bad people? Asking for a friend. Now, apparently, you can use the term. Job openings slipped to 7.2 million in July. More evidence the American labor market is cooling. Marco Rubio is in Latin America to talk security, sovereignty, tariffs, trade, drugs, and migration. So he's in Latin America. He's the top chief U.S. diplomat, and he's probably there before more military action is going to go down. So, Illinois governor deeply concerned about ICE targeting Mexican Independence Day events in Chicago. We have reason to believe that Stephen Miller chose the month of September to come to Chicago because of celebrations around Mexican Independence Day that happen here every year. Breaks my heart to report that we've been told by ICE they're going to try and disrupt the community picnics, peaceful parades. Let's be clear, the terror and cruelty is the point, not safety of anyone living here. I can't. Please, somebody tell me I'm wrong for thinking bad guys need to be arrested for using bang sticks to harm people. Please tell me I'm wrong as a paramedic, having spent my entire career witnessing the violence in the streets. Please tell me I'm wrong, that it's wrong to incarcerate and put those people in jail. All right, so, man, we are running on time today. Wow. Apparently, I babble a lot. So, all right. So in Maine, we have a severe thunderstorm. The National Weather Service in gray has issued a severe thunderstorm for west central Somerset County in west central Maine. So there's a severe thunderstorm located near Eustis, moving east at 10 mile an hour, 60 mile an hour wind gusts, and hail. So they're expecting that storm to last for the next 30 minutes. In Maryland, they're still testing things, trying to figure it out there. Maybe they just have not got it right. That's why they keep testing. Maybe that's why it is. This one area in Maryland, monitoring message only, please disregard. They do this all the time. It's not just once a day. It's like every other hour. I don't know if it's just an annoyance or what. So, all right. So we talked about in Mississippi, right in the center of the country. Well, there's a severe thunderstorm warning. So if you're in that area, seek shelter from the storm. Flood warnings are up as far as Minnesota, and Montana. There's a heat advisory in Alaska and Juneau up in the capital for the next 8 hours. Flood advisory in Puerto Rico. And along all waterways, there is some type of advisory or statement. And we are looking at weatherwarn.com if you ever want to check this out. Apparently, some beach hazard statements at the North Carolina-Virginia border. Washington, well, you're going to have an air quality problem, probably because of the smoke. And let's see, air quality is to reduce slime outside, avoid strenuous activities. So it's going to be hot, and the air is not going to be that good if you're in Northwest Washington. And a flood watch in Arizona, Wyoming, you have an air quality alert. It's a message transmitted in collaboration with the Wyoming Department of EPA, or Environmental Quality Air, EQA. Well, air quality alert for wildfire smoke in northeast Wyoming from 11 a.m. local time through 11 p.m. through 11 a.m. Thursday. So for 24 hours, we're going to have the air quality alert. And let's see here. Flood watch in Arkansas. And I'm trying to look here. Red flags, we've talked about that in California and Oregon. Just scroll through and look for something that is pretty big. Montana, well, you're having an air quality alert. And that's probably be from the smoke too. Because we're going to look at it here in a few minutes, but I don't believe there's a whole lot of wind pushing that smoke. It is just sitting there from the wildfires. So all kinds of flood watches in the central portion of the United States. Off of the coastlines, well, you can anticipate some windy storms. And if you want to check them out, or if you're on a boat, please make sure to have a marine radio and monitor the Coast Guard. So they have warnings issued. Red flag warning in for the fire weather zone in the Cascades of Washington, which is into the west-northwest. And air quality alerts in Oregon. Okay, so the site just updated to all the gale warnings. Let's see, go down here. Red flag warnings in Oregon, Washington, heat warnings in California, rip currents in Florida. That's to be expected this time of year. Washington has got another red flag warning. Well, there's several of them in Oregon and Washington. So pretty much all of the state there. Extreme heat in Idaho and Washington is for today. Arizona, you're having some poor air quality, and that's going to extend for the next 8 hours. California, Southern California, you have some flood watches you need to be checking out. So, all right, let's move on real quickly. Let's look and see where all these watches, alerts, and warnings are in the United States. Except for that's not the right button. There we go. But I had the right button. All right. So we see on the East Coast, pretty clear. Along the coastline, there's all the gale warnings. Let me get over there. All the gale warnings and wind watches. And skating down as we go to the south, we see the coastal flood advisory, the rip currents right there from the St. Mary Island in Georgia all the way down past Jacksonville. So keep your eye out there. If you're in the center part of the country, well, right smack dab at the Mississippi-Alabama line, just below Tuscaloosa, there's a severe thunderstorm warning for that storm that's moving through. And the small craft advisories from all of the areas in the Great Lakes up around Chicago. We're scrolling through here. And then we start to see the red flag warnings from from Nevada, Northern California, extending all the way up the 5 corridor, basically to the Canadian line. Red flag warning. So keep your water nearby if you're out in the heat. Stay hydrated. Drop down here and we see down off the coast of Miami, they have all kinds of marine warnings. For our friends in the Keys, you've got a thunderstorm warning and a marine warning. So if you're out there near the Keys, that 100-mile bridge right now is pretty stormy. If you're traveling the bridge going from Miami all the way out to Key West right now, well, it's pretty stormy. Keys are getting hammered right now with a pretty decent sized storm. It looks it's moving to the east, but they're going to have that for the next few hours. We'll look out here to the Atlantic, and we don't see any organization of the storm to say as far as heavy bands of rain. Let's jump to our next map real quick because we've got about 10 minutes left. So, and then we got to get out of here to make time for the others. If you remember, I found this map yesterday in my playing around. Chris has a thunderstorm in his pants, Wendell says. Wendell, my question is, how the heck do you know that? I'm asking for a friend. All right, so we look at the bigger picture here. Let me make this zoom out. And we see all the watches, alerts, and warnings. This is for worldwide. We drop down to our friends in Australia because we like to keep an eye on them. And, well, the only thing I see down there is it looks like there's a strong wind warning over the southern waters of Tavua. All right, so that's up in the west coast. That is right at the equator, but I don't. Well, that just happened, and I have no idea what the hell that was. Literally, there's nothing in here moving. Ginger's not up here. That just happened behind me. So I'll have to go back and watch that. That was right about an hour 50 in. That's interesting. That just happened. Did anybody else hear that by chance, or was it just me? It shook the house when it fell. All right, so we get away from our friends in Australia and zoom out, and we see there's all kinds of warnings. I'm kind of rattled after that. All kinds of warnings in Asia, Russia, over in Europe and the Slavics, down even in Africa and in South America. So it's kind of cool if you want to check this out. Meadow Blue, and you can look at all the warnings in the United States. Let's go over here to Alaska real quick, since we've been talking about that. Man, it did. That kind of rattled me. So there are 2 active warnings for earthquake alerts in Alaska. All right. I've not seen that. That's the surf. That's wind warning. There's another earthquake. Well, I've not seen earthquake warnings. It's a small craft advisory there. I must have zoomed in and hit the wrong one, because there's more than one there. So yeah, there we go. And that's another earthquake alert. Interesting. They must have them so frequently up there, they send alerts. Interesting. All right. And up into central Alaska, they have flood watches. That really did. That rattled me. By the way, anybody listening, did anybody else hear that, or is it just me? All right. So, I don't even think let's pull up the radar. I don't even think it's thunderstorming outside. All right, let's move on to the next one here. Rainfall. All right, so this is rainfall. We'll zoom in. I just want to zoom in where I'm at. There might be some rainfall, but there's no thunder. So there's a heavy band of storms on the east side of the Appalachia, going from the southwest Virginia line all the way down to northeast Georgia, extending over into Hickory. That's a pretty good sized storm with some rain. We talked about the one down in Miami extending down to the Keys. That's a heavy band of rain falling. We look up into the Midwest and we see that the only significant ones is Pierre in that band going down to Des Moines, back over to Chicago, with the most heavy concentration being just southeast of Des Moines. The dog just come up here to investigate, so I'm not crazy. Okay. Wendell says the government has posted a brown flag warning for his area. Okay. Chris, you have a brown flag warning. I don't know what the hell it is. There's some heavy bands of rain up in Antarctica. And let's go down to visit our friends in Australia and see. It doesn't appear there's really any bands of rainfall. Maybe just a small one there in Broken Hill and some slight ones along the coastline in Melbourne, but not much severe rain. Let's look at the electrical activity. First off, I'll zoom in and see if there's anything crazy. Maybe we just had an earthquake. I don't know. Wendell, what the hell happened? Now, there's no real thunderstorms around me in Knoxville. Man, that band down along Miami to Key West, it's got a lot of electrical activity. Whew. We're seeing some rare thunderstorms and electrical activity up in Maine. And when you get back across the country, stretching over from Albuquerque to Las Vegas, there's some sporadic electrical activities in those thunderstorms. We don't see out here in the Atlantic much electrical activity from the storm. And we go down to Alaska, where our friends are. And it looks like maybe a little bit of electrical activity with that storm off the coastline between Adelaide and Canberra, but not a whole lot. We get up here, though, and we see, well, that is just to the east of the, where is that? It's in the Western Territory. And it's just a small little cell right in the center of the Western Territory. All right, let's look real quick at the power outages in the U.S. I'm going to refresh this to make sure nothing's changed. California, well, there's a shocker. They have 12,038 without power. It looks as though Texas, Florida, Georgia, and Louisiana are all reporting power outages at this time. In Georgia, it's going to be primarily in Walker County. And go back. We said Texas, Looks like in Texas, it's going to be down along the border in Maverick, and then up in the northwest in Culberson. And we say Florida. Florida looks like most of yours is going to be in Washington County. It's probably a little band of storms that went through. And then where did we say Louisiana? Where is it? Louisiana. And it looks like pretty much, well, it's kind of spread evenly, so there's no one big area. All right. Let's look at the wind map real quick. This is the AI art generated. I like to at least everybody get a chance to view this before I get out of here. And we see wind off of the Alaskan coastline is pretty intense at the moment. Down there, the storm off of the west coast is got a lot of wind associated with it. It's a pretty tightly formed eye. They're reporting right now that the wind speeds are 57. The other hurricane has only got 45-mile-an-hour winds. We zoom out and look, really, besides for the air coming down from Canada over the Great Lakes, there is not a lot of air movement. In the winds moving from the south to the north, from the north to the south, from Maine to Florida is what's causing those rip currents, because that other tropical low is moving in the opposite direction. That's also what's causing the rip currents in the Gulf of America because of the winds shifting and coming back and around outward. There is no formation of that storm off of the coast of Africa that we can see as of yet. Unlike the other storms and cyclones, they've got a pretty tightly formed circle to them, but there's not one with that. Let's drop down to Australia and see down there real quick. And it looks like maybe along the beach areas, it's going to be pretty windy, but the rest of the country doesn't look too bad. All right, what do we got? We've got, just a few minutes left here. So let's move to, where is, this is the earthquake report for today, and it is moderate. And they're saying that the seismic energy is at a moderate level with one quake expected today of a 5.9. I'd like to know how they come up with this data. And let's see. The most recent was a 5.3 in Ecuador. Let's refresh this to make sure. 5.3 in Ecuador. There was a 2.7 southeast coast of Australia. That was 8 hours ago. So the one that occurred 4 hours ago in Ecuador is the most recent earthquake. And scanning through. All right, so where do we want to go before we get out of here? Let's take a real quick peek and see if we can see what any type of, there's a lot of military aircraft up today. This is a transport C-17. Looks like it's coming out of UK. It's headed right smack down here. Wonder where it's going to go. So there's a C-17 coming out of, looks like it's coming out of, where did we say? It's coming out of UK, out of Glasgow, just west of Glasgow. So Prestwick. So it's coming out and headed right down to, well, you guessed it. And that appears to be an Italy plane that's traveling out of there. Yeah, there's one coming right down to this area. What is this over here? This is a U.S. Hercules. It's flying. Wonder it's headed. It's headed towards the same area down here. Both headed towards the same area, which is right off the coast of what country? All right, so zoom out here, see a little bit more activity. That's a dignitary. That may be associated with the what's his name? Rubio, maybe associated with him. Well, we have a Black Hawk up around us here in East Tennessee. They're doing some kind of monitoring. That might be ice related. That's a King Air. It's a dignitary. It looks like there's a lot of area. You know, we just talked about how there was a lot of area. The president talked about his next area, may have been New Orleans. They're sure doing a lot of training over here, but that's not unusual because there's the bases in Mobile and Pensacola. Then you get over just past Panama, and there's Elgin Air Force Base. So they always do a lot of training down there. So we'll see. They're just doing a lot of training. They're doing something over here off of the coast of Jacksonville. That's a lot of dignitaries flying, but there's a lot of planes circling. Let's see what that little fella is. And that's just a dignitary. So, all right. So we don't see anything down in the Caribbean, but we see some things headed that way. This one that has no call sign, well, it might have come from out of there. You never can tell. See if we have anything up here. And nope, that's just a dignitary. A lot of dignitaries moving around today for some reason. Nothing substantial off of the coast. I don't even see any tankers up. Usually if there's some tankers up, you'll see fighter jet activity, but I don't see anything. We'll zoom out and go up here to Alaska and see if there's anything going on up there. And no, that's just a military moving some troops around our equipment. And that's there. Well, all right, so nothing doesn't look too exciting. There's another dignitary coming out of Alaska. Doesn't look anything too exciting, at least just scanning without doing a lot of deep research, but doesn't appear to be anything big or major happening. We see up along the East Coast all the way down through Florida, there probably some kind of operations or training going on that have to do with that crystal ice stuff. So that could be going on. All right, well, we've run over in time here, and I have babbled enough, and I've probably bored everybody, so we'll just get out of here. The ships aren't avoiding the area either for the storms out in the Atlantic, and maybe a little bit so here off of the coast of California. It looks like there might be an area free. Zooming down to that country down here, and, well, it's hard to tell what's going on. There's a lot of activity down there, so, but that's not uncommon because it's a Caribbean area where there's lots of vacationers. There's also lots of military. There's lots of cargo vessels, tankers coming and going as well. So, and apparently research vessels. So I'll zoom in, show what it is. And you're not going to show what it is, are you? All right. So that's a tanker. That appears to be yet another tanker. And this here is a cargo. They're staying pretty tightly together, and really not much to see down here. But I would say all the activity in the Caribbean looks to be operating normally right now. So, all right, well, let's get out of here. Take a look. Police officers line of duty death, none new reported. Good news. Always glad to hear that. Firefighters, and they had a massive fire yesterday in Baltimore we didn't really talk about. And the most recent firefighter comes out of Kentucky, bringing the total to 57 unfortunate lives lost in the fire world. All right, I'm going to get out of here. Everybody, thank you for tuning in, allowing me to be a part of your day, allowing me to babble. I'm going to go research what could have possibly happened behind me that would cause something to just fall. So my paranormal show tonight at 5 or at 9 I am rattled. Tonight at 9 is going to have 2 rock musicians. So it's going to be a good time. So come check us out then. We're going to be live on Dare Talk Radio, Yerg's Radio, and of course, here on YouTube. I encourage everybody to come over. I need your support because we're getting pushed down in the algorithm. If you can find that thumbs up button and hit it, just takes a second. And if you look for that hyper button that's to the right, somewhere down there in the chat, and let me know what it is, what it does. It'd be appreciated. But tell all your friends about me. We need to get some support and get this site going a little bit better. We get some big things planned, and I already have a sponsor that we're going to be showing here real soon. So everybody have a great day. I will talk to you soon. Until then, well, I'm just going to get the hell out of here. Everybody have a great day and a good morning to you over in down under in Australia.